Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film, and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was directed by Samuel Bayer. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Eric.
New wheel, new nightmare.
New wheel, new deal, new nightmare. Let's go.
First spin of the new wheel. This is a mini wheel. This is the wheel that's going to take us into October. So this is like a summer fall transition period wheel.
It keeps us primed. It keeps us like going. It's nice.
Yeah, so it's a short wheel, but we put a couple randos on there, and this one specifically because we just got to finish this series, and this is the final one. So happy to get this on the wheel. Happy to finally finish the Nightmare on Elm Street series, including the TV series. So we did cover the pilot of that, and definitely not going out with a bang. Can say that.
You know me, man. I usually like movies. I fucking hate this movie. I did not like this movie at all.
Yeah, there's pretty much universal hate for this movie, like critics, audience, and it is weird because I remember seeing this in theaters and not hating it when I first saw it. I don't, when did you see this?
I saw it, I think, in Redbox working security. I
Okay.
think. I think. I didn't see it in theaters.
Yeah, I remember I don't remember who I saw it with, but I was like, yeah, like, okay. Like it was fine. Like I didn't remember hating it and not loving it. I was thinking there was going to be a sequel because it did so well, but the backlash from this movie is like legendary. Like people fucking hate this movie, and I can understand why. It's unnecessary. I think it's just a bland, unnecessary rehash of something that was so much better.
Yeah, we can get into it, but like the reasons I don't like it, one, the clever shots they do from the original with like, the school scene where the body bag gets dragged through the hallway, Freddy like climbing through the wall, like into Nancy, the bathtub scene. They do all the classic iconic scenes, but nothing different. Not even as good,
Yeah.
being 30 years later or whatever it is.
That's the point. It's a remake that does the same things and they're not as good.
There's a couple good things in this. There's some like okay, all right, I like that. Like it starts off pretty good, and then the whole like he's a child molester
Yeah.
layer that gets not put on it is like you know what? Obviously, this is a one and done film because you're not doing a sequel to this. Period. It's not happening. It's something different to add that layer onto it, but. You're watching a nightmare movie, you're kind of rooting for Freddy and you're on Freddy's side in some ways. At least I am, at least especially for the sequels.
Yeah.
And the one-liners like "You're in my nightmare now, bitch," and like all the jokes and stuff, you can't laugh at it if he's raping children.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point because you're right. Like I think like the Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween movies, since they don't really have a consistent cast for you to root for, it's all just like disposable teens. You do end up rooting for the killer.
Not that he's any better and he killed children, but that layer is like, that's where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it makes it too real because I mean, yeah, no, I agree. Like, there's a few things in this movie that are different. That's one of them, the one you just mentioned about him. There's like some ambiguity to did he actually molest children or did the kids accuse him of it and he didn't do it? But it's like,
No, the ending pretty makes it very clear when he finds the photographs on the ground, and it's
oh
like,
no, 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 for sure. It confirms it at the end, but it
but the
leaves it.
original, you're saying it didn't.
No, no, I'm saying this one. In this one, until they get to that basement scene, it is ambiguous if he actually did it or not.
True, there was a scene where it's like you killed an innocent man at one scene.
Yeah, and the kids are like, we were five, we would have said anything. Like they have this internal conflict. So you're like, okay, that adds another layer to it because if Freddy,
Imagine that. Imagine Freddy was like a good guy.
yeah, exactly, and they
Then he snapped. That would be better than this shit. Yeah.
100%. They introduced this idea of like the kids maybe lying or maybe it did, but we don't know. They should have fucking leaned into that more, and Freddy's getting revenge because they lied. But here's the other thing. Having seen this movie probably 5 or 6 times, dude, it's so clear he was doing something to these kids. Even if he wasn't molesting them, he was scraping them with knives and stuff. Like,
Right,
so
right,
he was doing
right.
something bad. Like, for sure. No matter what. Molesting, killing, he was doing something to these kids. But yeah, so that's one thing that they introduced that's different. And the other thing they introduced that's different, which really wish they expanded on this and could have done more with it in sequels or whatever, is the micro napping thing.
Is that when you're like actually awake, but like have these mini moments where you fall asleep and shit?
Yeah, they talk about it in this one.
Like where he's like driving and then you see Freddy in the road and stuff. Like, oh, like, there's many nightmares.
That, but also the scene where they're in the pharmacy and he's like slashing.
Yeah, they brought drugs. I mean, oh, they did bring, I don't think, did they bring pills in the first one? I know they brought coffee into it very hard. I think Nancy was tr doing pills too.
She was doing like it was called like Stay Awake or something like that. But they started doing Hypnosil, I think, in part three, and then they bring it back in Freddy vs. Jason. But this isn't Hypnosil. This is like Adderall or something.
Yeah, Freddy vs. Jason leans into like the drugs too.
Yeah, but this one, I love how this kid's probably what? He's like 16, maybe 17, and he's acting. He's like, I've been on these pills since I was 15. Okay, so it's fine. It's like, dude, you've been on it for like a year. Like, you don't know anything.
That actor, he's like the stereotypical like goth kind of kind of kid from the like the late 2000s, you know.
Dude, you know who he is, Eric? You're gonna freak
I
out.
I know what else he's in. He's in Jennifer's Body. We've covered that.
No, no, no. He's in Wet Hot American Summer, and he's the kid that's like he gets pushed out of the van where he's like, "Where's Andy?" or whatever. He's like, "Where's my friend?" And he pushes him out of the van. That's him.
Going to a big pizza party and he just
Yeah, that's him. That's the kid.
I would have never known that.
No,
That's so funny.
I looked him up though. I was like, "What else has this guy been in?" And his first movie was Wet Hot American Summer, and it's like as kid who gets pushed out of van.
Jeez. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he was in the Scream 5. He was in that for a little while, and he's been in a couple other horror movies, but I just haven't seen him in much. The problem with this movie and every single remake of this time, especially Friday the 13th and My Bloody Valentine, dude, this is just the CW show. This is like they just took any actor they could find from like WB, CW, that those kind of like teen dramas at the time, and just shove them into a movie.
Do you know why?
I think who made this? New Line made this, and WB owns New Line and CW.
Correct. That's who was going to see movies a lot in the 2010s. A lot of that age group that were watching the CW. Like that was what we did. We did that too. We would go to the movies.
Yeah, of course.
We were the target audience for these kinds of movies.
I didn't watch anything on the CW. I didn't know who any of these people were the first time I watched it. And same with Friday the 13th. I didn't know what Supernatural was even when that movie came out. And
Hmm.
My Bloody Valentine 2009 has the other guy from Supernatural in it. And I'm just like,
Friday the 13th has the other guy from Super. Yeah.
yeah. And I never watched the CW or anything, but even The Fog had the guy from your favorite show, Smallville. And then what did this,
My favorite show. I love how you say that. It's a great show. I don't want to say it was my favorite, but okay, keep going.
uh, so who is the guy in this one that's like the CW guy? It's or Mara Rooney's not really CW, and is the fucking lead kid the drug addict kid? What was he? I've never seen him in like any TV show.
No, I don't think there's one like a CW person. Like maybe one of the boyfriends in the beginning or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah. But it's very like teen heartthrob bullshit where I mean I guess Johnny Depp was, but 21 Jump Street came out after the original Nightmare on Elm Street, so they kind of were all unknowns.
I mean, that was one of his first ever things.
Yeah, everybody was unknown. I did hear a weird behind the scenes. I don't know if this is true, but apparently or what the fuck's his name? Jack Haley Earl. He went to audition for the part of Glenn in the original Nightmare on Elm Street when he was like 17 or 18, and he was friends with Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp came to the audition with him, and they said they didn't want him, but they want Johnny Depp to audition. He got the part. And now he was kind of like not a revenge, but it was like, a full circle moment for him to actually come back and be Freddy now.
I think what's his name? How do you say it? Mark, whatever. I looked up his biography too, and it's funny you said that because he was also in Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp. I don't know what role he played.
Who, Jack Earl Haley?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was in Dark Shadows with the movie Dark Shadows, and I'm sure Johnny Depp has bigger fish to fry than whatever the fuck happened back in the 80s that he probably had no idea about. His agent did, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's water under the bridge for him.
For
Like,
sure. But it's kind of weird because I've gone to a billion auditions and I would never be like, hey, Eric, like you're in New York. Do you want to just come to my audition with me? Like that doesn't happen. You don't bring
nah.
people to
Yeah.
auditions with you. So that might have been a thing in the 80s, but that is not a thing today. You can't just be like, he's like, who's this? Like, oh, this is my friend. I just didn't want him to wait outside. It's like, yeah, no, he can wait in the fucking hallway. Like, but anyways, the thing that this movie had against it from the start was obviously it's a remake of something that's very beloved. People really have a lot of associations with Robert Englund and all that stuff. Apparently, they didn't come to Wes Craven for this at all. They didn't talk to him about it, which is like bullshit because I think Wes Craven's remakes are probably the best remakes aside from this one. I mean, you've got The Hills Have Eyes in 2006 and then Last House on the Left in 2009, and those are two solid horror remakes.
I think it's because Friday the 13th kind of did its own thing and probably felt like we don't need Wes to do this because Friday the 13th didn't do amazing. This movie didn't do amazing either, but it did pretty good. It did pretty good in the box office. So I would say they didn't even want to have the chance of Wes turning it down
Well, they didn't consult Wes for anything, which I think is stupid.
because they didn't want to hear any flack about him saying I don't approve of this movie because when that word gets out, then
Well, let me say this because remember when we did Last House on the Left, the remake, that opening scene is like really fucked up. It's like the guy showing, the cops the picture of his kids as he's about to, like, remember that scene? That was different.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was actually a scene that Wes Craven wrote in 1972 or whatever, and that they just didn't put in the original one. So imagine if they went to Wes for this movie and they were like, hey, did you have any ideas that like you couldn't put in the original one? But they didn't even go to him. They didn't ask him anything. His name's on it, but he wasn't consulted apparently at all.
I saw in the credits like based off of characters or something by Wes Craven. I saw that in the credits.
Yeah, they have to do that. It's like like a law.
So I mean, if they don't need to go to him, but I don't know. That's my take is they just probably didn't want him to negate it.
Yeah, but it's stupid because the Friday the 13th remake, it's not a remake of the first one. Like they took beats from the first four films and kind of did like a highlights reel and so it's not a distinguishable remake. You're like, okay, it's in that world, it's got recognizable characters, location, but it's a kind of a new story, sort of.
And it's more fun. This one is just dark and kind of even more sinister. And I like the Friday the 13th not remake, but like
It's a remake, yeah.
it is a remake. I like the 2009 Friday the 13th better than this 2010 Nightmare. 100%.
Yeah, because this one, yeah, as we said, it just plays the same beats as the original one, but just not as good. Robert Englund is too iconic as Freddy to have a new guy stepping in.
Yeah, and the new guy is coming off hot of
Watch.
Watchmen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Shutter Island.
So he has the body frame, he has the acting ability. There's no doubt he's not a great actor, but those are big shoes to fill.
It's nothing against him as an actor. Yeah, it would be like, if Wolverine got recast as somebody else, people would probably not be cool with it.
Or like The Rock became Terminator. It's just like, dude, it's just not, it doesn't feel right.
There are things, it doesn't matter how good the actor is. There are rules that are just too associated with specific actor that you can't forget. You can't. So, yeah, he did a good job, but I will say the first thing that pissed me off about this movie is when Freddy's dragging his glove and it's like CGI sparks. It's like
That looked
I'm like,
so bad.
fuck this. Like, just use real sparks. Like, goddamn. They just did too much CGI. That was the thing. This movie is just too much CGI when they could have gone practical for a few things. One thing I also really hate is probably the best kill of the original movie, debatable, is that girl getting like, thrown up against the ceiling and having that all happen, her getting murdered. That is so iconic and so incredible how they did that back then. Dude, the whole time I'm watching this version of that with the girl getting thrown around the room,
You're laughing. You were laughing like they did a terrible job of this.
it reminded me of the Tori Spelling scene in Scary Movie 2 when she's like, "Oh yeah, fuck me, daddy, all over."
It looked like Scary Movie, didn't it? Jeez
Yeah, it's
Louise.
it's it's so it's like yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
And it was the same way where it's like he just slashes her stomach or whatever, and then she falls. And I was like, that's we're not gonna up the ante there. We're gonna up the ante in other ways, but not that. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, and the other thing that Robert Englund, he said specifically, he's like, I think the reason this didn't work, he said two things. He's like, well, we just released the box set like 6 months before this came out. And I think people watched that and they were like turned off because they like those ones so much. And I was like, all right, maybe. His other thing was, he's like, this movie starts off where everybody already seems like they're miserable and like they already know about Freddy and like nobody seems happy. He's like, where the first one, Freddy kind of like comes into them and then they start to freak out. He's like, this one starts there.
That's a good point. Like everyone's happy. They're all like fun teenagers, and like the bad asshole is like finally like, what's the word? Redeeming himself to his girlfriend after breaking up, and then Freddy arrives.
Yeah, this one, it seems like the opening scene, like Nancy's miserable. She's like, I work at a diner. And she's like tired. And then the other guy is just, he's killing himself already. So, like, yeah, I like the opening scene, but it does feel like Freddy is already invading these kids. And it's just like, we need somewhere to go to. And it's the same reason that Stephen King didn't like the Jack Nicholson's Shining, or the version of him, because he was like, it already seems like Jack was crazy from the start. And it's like, and he, in the point of the book is that he snaps when he gets to the hotel, and this movie, the version of The Shining, the film, it makes it feel like he's already crazy before they even get there. And I didn't like that. So I like that.
Two different, they're just two different versions. Book's great, movie's great.
Yeah.
No other way to say it for The Shining.
Yeah. It's a terrible comparison.
I agree with you though. It's just like Freddy's already been around. He's not. This isn't his first go around killing people again. Like you saw the guy on like YouTube or Reddit or whatever.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up.
That was fucking stupid. I'm sorry.
Okay. Not only was that stupid, but here's the other. There's so many things about that scene. So there's a part where Nancy is looking through like I don't know, Reddit or some bullshit websites, and she finds a guy talking about Freddy online or whatever. It's also interesting. That's a guy. He's also in Friday the 13th, the remake. But
He's in a lot. He's in a lot of like late mid 2000 horror stuff and Disturbia. Go ahead if you keep going.
yeah, so he's anyway, so she's watching these videos of this guy telling these progressively worse stories about a guy with knives, and it's clearly Freddy. So there's two things. He smashes his face into the camera when he's like, somebody help me, and he just smashes his face, and we presume he dies.
Yeah, because he's having one of those like hyper sleeps or something.
Yeah, who knows? But
Micro sleeps.
who uploaded that video?
If he died there, yeah, that's a great point.
Who the fuck would the mom be like, well, he was making a video. I guess I'll upload this for him. Like, who uploaded that video after this kid died? So that's the one thing.
Well, maybe he was having one of those micro sleep moments.
Oh, regardless. I mean, how he died,
I don't know. It was just dumb in general that like Freddy's been around the block already.
that leads me to my second point. So ridiculous that that got uploaded. Not that he killed himself, but that it got uploaded. That's what I'm like, okay. But the other thing is, Freddie makes a pretty goddamn big point about Nancy being his favorite, and you're the one that I've always wanted to come for, or whatever. Why is Freddie able to go out and kill all these other people that I don't even know if they're in Elm Street or in Springfield or Springwood? Why is he killing them first? And why doesn't he have his power? Like, it just, that makes no sense that Freddie's out killing other people on the internet somewhere. And now Nancy, who's his favorite, and he's been waiting for her, but he was able to kill that other kid. So why couldn't he just come and kill Nancy whenever the hell he wanted to?
I don't have that in. I don't even want to explain what I think could have been. I don't even know. Maybe he was at the preschool molesting kids for a longer time than they make it seem, and then the family that kills him, he can go back like and kill even older people. I don't, it's just so bad, dude. This is a bad movie. It's a bad movie.
That really, I hate that part. That
Yeah,
like,
it was bad. It was just like okay, I don't like this.
yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that's like super different about this one than the original. I mean, Freddy is. I mean, in the original one, he's pretty dark. I remember that line really always sticking with me when the girl's like, "Oh my God," and he's like, this is God." Like that really fucked me up as a kid.
That's probably, I mean, that and Welcome to My Nightmare, bitch. And then, like, yeah, there's quite a few one-liners of Freddy
This one, dude,
that they muff up. Yeah, they muff. What does he say? What he doesn't say that.
the guy goes, "Oh God," and he goes, "No, just me."
Yeah, it's like it's only me here in the boiler room. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, again, why is he in a boiler room? Because he was like he lived in the basement of a school, and they show the basement. That's not a boiler room, so it's like they didn't do a good job of this movie.
Right.
They just really didn't.
Also, forgot Connie Britton was in this movie.
Oh, and Clancy Brown. We got two big
Right.
actors. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Connie Britton coming. This is right before American Horror Story, so she had a great like year basically. And Clancy Brown's
totally.
always working, Mr. Krabs, but.
Yeah, he's SpongeBob or whatever. What's he? He's like a couple characters in SpongeBob.
Yeah, he's killing it, dude. That guy's had such a good career. But yeah, so there are a few people that you're like, oh, okay, like nice,
It has potential. It's just like they just like kind of just fumbled the bag a little bit. And if I had to predict, I think that they wanted to do Friday the 13th, and if that did well, they're going to do Nightmare because Michael Bay produced both. And Friday the 13th did well enough, and I'm sure the second it did well enough, they greenlit this and rushed it to be done within a year. I remember
Yeah.
the trailer coming out, and I was like, it looks okay. It looks like I don't think it's gonna be great, but I'm gonna see it. And now that's what that trailer did to me. It made me think I don't think it's gonna be that good, but I'm gonna see it. And that's what happens, and it really wasn't that good.
Yeah, I mean, when the Friday the 13th one came out, it wasn't like, oh, we know the killer is Mrs. Voorhees. It's like, no, it's Jason. Like they do different things, and Jason doesn't get his mask in the first Friday the 13th. He gets it in the third one, but in the remake, he gets it in that one. So there's little things they do. But this one, it's like, okay, this is Nancy. You remember that character you guys like? Okay, this is the new Nancy. So get on board with that. She's not as like kind of carefree. She's got like a dark edge to her and she's miserable and we don't really know why. They never say what happened to her dad.
Also, this it did feel like it went from two characters. It went from the blonde one who was killed. Like we were focused really on her for the first quarter of the movie,
Hmm.
and Nancy was barely in it. And then we like kind of just pivoted to Nancy.
Well, that's kind of with the original one.
No, Nancy was the full character, even though it did start with Freddy. Like, yeah, I guess you're right.
No,
This one felt a little bit too heavily involved with the blonde friend.
I can tell you exactly what it is. The original one, Freddy is haunting the blonde girl, okay? And
Yeah.
then in this one, she's haunting the blonde girl's ex-boyfriend, and we don't even see that. So we're wrapped up in her caring about something for somebody else. So
But it was really more heavily involved in her rather than Nancy, I felt like the first quarter of the movie.
yeah, more so than the original. But they both do that kind of psycho fake out where it's like, oh, I thought that was the lead, and then they kill her. Like both of them do that, but this one doesn't do it as gracefully. And I will say though, when I was like 20 and I saw this movie, I thought that blonde girl was like the hottest person that's ever walked planet Earth. I was like,
Now you're like,
wow.
nah.
Well, now I feel kind of old because she's like 20 and I'm like 34, so I'm like, okay. But back in the day,
This movie's 14 years old.
yeah, I know.
That feels weird. And also I feel like it came, I no, I just feel like it came out like 7 years ago. I'd be like, oh, when that come out? Like I'd say like what, like maybe 10 years ago? No, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
That
And
hurts.
that's the sad thing is since 2009 and 2010, there has not been another anything.
I know. And here's the thing too. I'm gonna read some stats real quick. This movie came out April 30th, 2010. It's an hour 35, perfect time for this kind of movie. Its budget was 35 million. It made 118 million.
Yeah, that's sequel worthy.
That's sequel worthy, but that's not like that's the end of the whole Freddy. Like anyone who can say like let's try Freddy again. And it's like, well, last time we lost money. It's like, no, no, last time we made three times, four times what we put into it. So that's there. But Rotten Critic score was 14%. Rotten Audience is 43. People hated this. I think enough time has passed, being that it's 14 years later, to let's do it. Let's bring Freddy back somehow, or even Jason. I don't know. I think people could use it. Could use it.
100%.
We're done with Michael for 10 years. Michael Myers. I heard there's going to be a television show. I'm like, don't want that. There's a Scream television show. There's been a couple Scream movies that are pretty good, right, Alec?
I think they're great.
Yeah, I haven't seen them,
The
so
Scream franchise doesn't really have a bad entry, and I think that's why I love it so much. It's like consistently strong. It's not whoa, but it's never like
every movie is unique, and then also, yeah, it's very,
yeah.
yeah, it's good.
It is you should check those out. Those you won't be disappointed. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. This is like the only example I can think of a movie that did do financially well, but was so hated by critics and audience that they're like, let's just call it a wash. Let's not even roll the dice again.
Yeah, yeah, it's like let's take our winnings.
Yeah, because if it was like, oh yeah, it was pretty good, I think they would have made a sequel by now, but people fucking hated it. So,
They hated this, and I don't know if it was Friday. I don't think Friday the 13th was as hated.
no, definitely not.
I think this one did better in the box office.
Well, Friday the 13th has been locked up in a legal battle forever now. I mean, that's why it's a legal issue. It has nothing to do with money or interest. They're doing the Crystal Lake TV show with A24. That's supposed to be coming out soon, but who knows?
What's the legal issue? I know we've talked about it before, but it's
Yeah, so the guy that owns, I believe it's between Sean S. Cunningham and Victor Miller, and I think, and basically what I understand it to be is the title Friday the 13th is owned by Sean S. Cunningham, but the adult Jason is not is owned by somebody else. So That's why Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X are like not technically part of the Friday the 13th, like because they're not called Friday the 13th. They're called Jason Takes blah blah blah. Jason
Yeah.
does this.
Yeah.
So it's like the legal issue is like we own the title and young Jason, and you guys own adult Jason, but you can't use the title Friday the 13th. So it's like such bullshit. It's all bullshit. But anyways.
Spider-Man all over again.
Yeah, but this is really just pettiness between a couple guys, and like eventually they're gonna die, and then their states will be like, yeah, let's make movies. So
Yeah, let's what do you want to do?
it's not like Wes Craven, because the thing with Friday the 13th is Shauna Cunningham was intentionally doing a ripoff of Halloween, and it just became successful. So Wes Craven had a real idea for this movie. He constructed a true villain original, where Friday the 13th is it's just a Michael Myers ripoff of the hockey mask.
And with teenagers at camp. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's very similar to Halloween, but overall, like, I don't even know if this is worth seeing, honestly. Like, if you like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, if you skip this one, like, you're gonna be fine. You're not gonna be missing anything, you know?
I just watched the trailer and just know that it exists. You don't need to do anything else if you like need to see every Freddy thing. That's
Yeah.
my take. It's not that great.
It would be disappointing if you didn't know that there was a 1984 one, and you thought this was it and you watched it, because you're gonna be like, because it's not that great.
I mean, even the special effects are better in the first one. Gonna say that.
Yeah.
The practical effects just look better. The charms there. It feels like more like present.
Like, dude, you're gonna tell me that when you see the scene of the blood coming out of the ceiling or whatever, and like sucking Johnny Depp into the bed, this version with the CGI and her like just dropping and then like perfectly, dude, way better in the 84 one. Not even close.
But how about just like him coming through the wall?
Oh my God,
The
yeah.
original is way more scary in my mind than this, with the crucifix coming off the wall and stuff.
The original one, it looks like he's just about to break through,
Yeah,
you know?
that
And
yeah. And he's there, and this one's just CGI. It looks like a Disney World ride gone wrong.
it looks like the mummy face from the like when the mummy is sand in the mummy. That's what it looks like. Remember? And they're flying away.
I mean, that's not that bad though. That was 99.
That looked better than this, honestly. Yeah, that was 11 years.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was way better than this too.
Oh my God. Yeah. All right. Let's end on some positive note. What is one good thing about this movie?
The kills are decent, decent. I think the gore was good. The jump scares were okay.
What's your favorite kill then? Because I feel like they're all just the same.
I think the first one
Yeah,
or Connie
fair.
Britton at the end was pretty good instead of like a thing getting pulled through the window. It's like her getting just like murked at the end. I was like, damn, like that's what everyone's reaction would probably be in the theater. However, the guy who was like, they had no idea it was Freddy. They thought he like just violently took his life, but no one takes their life like that. That was wild. Like to even consider that. So I thought that was a cool way to kick off the movie, and then it
Yeah.
it really fizzled out after that.
Well, it's so funny that you're saying it, because at the end, when they think they kill Freddy or whatever, you hear a coroner say, "We didn't find a body."
The body,
Dude,
the
they cut his
body.
head off.
I
They
know, I
cut
know.
his head off and he's on fire. So,
The body, though.
and then
Uh,
yeah, so the next scene is like Connie Britton getting killed, and okay, yeah, the ending, Connie Britton getting killed,
Kind of
and
like Phantasm there with the mirror. A
yeah,
little
well, yeah.
Phantasm action too. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, so that was really dumb. Here's the only positive I think about this movie is in the original one, we never get to see Freddy getting killed by the parents. We never get to see that scene. And they do it in the Freddy TV series, Freddy's Nightmares. That's the pilot episode. We covered that. This one shows it. And I think it was kind of cool.
Mr. Krabs like stomping the ground. There's a ton of people, a ton of cars coming in, and yeah.
Yeah, so oh, maybe that's it. Maybe he died in a boiler room. Maybe that was why. But okay. Anyways, yeah. So that's the only thing I can say. It's positive. I feel like the lines he said were darker, but like not as effective. Like he's like, you know that the human body can keep bleeding after whatever 7 minutes or something. So like we have 7 more minutes of fun. Like, why don't you show that then?
He was bipolar too. He's like, is he funny? Is he not? Is he?
Yeah. Let me just propose this really quick before we wrap up. Remember that scene where he straps that guy up and he says what I just said? He's like, we got 7 more minutes of fun. What if it just showed 7 minutes of intense like saw torture? That would completely make this movie stand out. You'd be like, it's pretty boring, but there's this like random 7 minute scene of intense torture.
Say what you want about this movie. They really did something different. Yeah.
Like that would have, I think, really made it stand apart. Like people would be like, that scene is the reason this movie exists, But they're just like, yeah, you can, we got more time for fun. Cut away, never show it. You're like, what the fuck? So, anyways, all right, let's spin the old wheel. What do you say?
All right, all right. New wheel spinning. Late Night with the Devil. Okay.
Amazing. Yeah, we're a little late to the party on this one, but this is a really good one. So
We're late night with the devil. We're late to the party at night with the devil. That's what we are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But this is a good one. I'm excited to talk about this one. I saw it a couple weeks or months ago. So, anyways, all right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening into our final episode of A Nightmare on Elm Street. We finally did the series, so thank you for listening.
Yeah. Wow. That's bittersweet. We've done the whole thing. Crazy.
I don't know.
Crazy.
Well, unless they make another one, but. Well, thank you everybody for listening in, and we will see you next week with Late Night with the Devil.
Woo!